And welcome to this special edition of Hannity. Now, for the hour, we will break down exactly what is at stake in November. In 213 short days from Joe Biden's border crisis, we'll look at the weaponization of the Department of Justice and the FBI to the climate alarmist religious cult and their increasingly radical demands. But we begin with the president himself tonight. Joe Biden, well, be frank, he's the single worst president in modern history. Anything that can go wrong has gone wrong, and yet he wants to be reelected. But he can't even run on any accomplishment. Think in your own mind, what has he done that you could say, Joe, you did a really good job here? Because I can't think of any. Now, he also can't run on his personality and his charm because he's so cognitively impaired and has always been, you know, that creepy Joe guy. Remember him? I don't run the videos because it's that sleazy. But instead, Joe is trying to win votes with cheap political ploys, fear-mongering, lying, demagoguery, and, of course, he is more than willing to grease the wheels with your money. Now, Axios is calling it Biden's 2024 goodie bag. Quote, the president's infrastructure and clean energy bills are pumping some $250 billion into Republican swing states. Now, the report says that the cash will, quote, give him a chance to win voters town by town, trip by trip. In other words, Joe looks like he's trying to buy votes with your money, all while dumping a massive amount of money into an economy already suffering from record-setting inflation, unprecedented debt and deficits. Now, he's doing the same thing with younger people by defying the Supreme Court of this country and handing out billions and billions in student loan forgiveness. Maybe that will help him with, you know, younger voters that have been leaving him in droves. Now, Biden always has been and remains a shady career politician. He will use every trick in the book to win an election. Now, of course, that does include pandering. Now, according to Joe, he was raised in the African-American community by people from Puerto Rico, from Italy, who were Jewish and Irish and Polish. And as of yesterday, he's also Greek. Watch.
I think every Greek American in Delaware voted for me. Some of the Delawares will tell you, that's where I acquired the nickname I'm very proud of. I am Joe Bidenopoulos. I've spent more time in the Bethel AME Church in Wilmington, Delaware than I have than most people I know, black or white, have spent in that church. Because that's where I started. No, I'm serious. I started a civil rights. The Persian culture is amazing. As a student of the Persian culture, not a practitioner, but a student. With his predecessors, Rabbi Kraft and Rabbi Geffen, that's where I received my education. I probably went to shul more than many of you did. I was sort of raised in the Puerto Rican community at home, politically. My background and the background of my family is Irish American. And we have a long history of not fundamentally unlike the Palestinian people.
And he also once bragged that his state was a slave state. In reality, Joe Biden really only is truly comfortable at his mansion in Delaware or sleeping late in his personal wing at the White House or trying to drag a very heavy beach chair when he goes to the beach, and an occasional luxury trip mixed into all of this. But that won't stop middle-class Joe from lying about his background. And don't forget, Biden is also attempting to pander to Arab Americans and the Arab American community. Why? He has turned his back on Israel. He's basically stabbed them in the back as they are fighting for their very survival after the worst terror attack in their history. And then, rather than supporting what would be commonsensical, would be a complete victory over radical Islamic terrorists. Remember, Israel's the little Satan. If they take out Israel from the river to the sea, who do you think they're coming after next? That would be us. Now, even the First Lady is now openly begging for a ceasefire yet again. Now, there's nothing the Bidens will not do when it comes to getting votes. Well, except actually work hard and govern effectively. The White House is more of a vanity project for the Bidens and probably a big money-making opportunity at the end of the rainbow for the Biden brand. And meanwhile, his radical staffers, many from the Obama era, they are driving our country into the ground. This week, Victor Davis Hanson, who will join us in a moment, detailed, quote, 11 ways Biden and his handlers are hell-bent on destroying America. Number one, the Biden administration wiped out our 2,000-mile southern border. It effectively no longer exists. Number two, they ran up a $35 trillion debt. Another $1 trillion will be added every 100 days. Number three, they continuously appease America's enemies, including China and Iran, with subsidies and sanctions relief. Number four, Biden has tried to divide this country along racial lines, gender lines. Democrats, they do that every election. Republicans are racist, sexist, misogynist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, transphobic. They want dirty air and water. And this week, by the way, Kamala Harris falsely claimed that the NCAA women's tournament, they weren't allowed to have brackets until 2022, even though we now know that she and her husband filled out a bracket years prior to that. Number five, the Biden administration supported the insanity of defund, dismantle, reimagine, no bail, soft on crime policies. Number six, Democrats quoted emasculated the military with their woke policies. Number seven, Biden has tried to, quote, reinvent the justice system. Why? To indict, bankrupt, convict, jail, and eliminate their political opponents. Number eight, Biden's handlers, they are creating a surveillance state in coordination with big tech. Remember the lead up to the 2020 election? Weekly meetings with the FBI? Number nine, Joe went to war with oil and gas, driving up gas prices, which drove up the price of every item you buy and every store you go to. But he did give Vladimir Putin a pass. He was allowed to build his gas pipelines. And number 10, Biden and other Democrats labeled men as toxic and discouraged marriage in the nuclear family. And number 11, the left has successfully turned world-class universities into nothing more than mere indoctrination centers. Now, this radical ideology, it is hurting our country. It is hurting the world. He's abdicated America's role in the world stage in real time. And now many Americans are having regrets. By the way, it includes Biden's biggest 2020 supporters, for example, like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Take a look at this.
Am I happy with the state of America right now? Well, that answer is no. Do I believe we're going to get better? I believe in that. I'm an optimistic guy, and I believe we can get better. The endorsement that I made years ago with Biden was one I thought was the best decision for me at that time. And I thought back then, when we talk about, hey, you know, I'm in this position where I have some influence, and it's my job then. I felt like that then. It's my job now to exercise my influence and share with this is who I'm going to endorse. Am I going to do that again this year? That answer is no.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.